I was paid to believe. That's not a metaphor. I was an associate pastor. One of my closest friends was a full-time worship leader. We were in a Christian rock band together. In other words, belief wasn't just personal for me. It was my life. But between 2008 and 2010, my faith slowly unraveled. I watched moral failure in the ministry. I watched staged religious performance that sometimes looked less like prayer and more like pro wrestling. What once felt meaningful began to feel artificial, and once I noticed it, I couldn't quite unsee it. At the same time, other questions were piling up. Questions about biblical inerrancy, about denominations, about authority. And if I'm being honest, about my own faults. I wasn't alone. My friend and bandmate, the worship leader, is a nun now. Not a nun in a habit. I mean the box you check on a form when it asks you your religion, and you check none. For a while, that box nearly had my name on it too. I didn't rebel. I didn't storm out. I didn't have some scandal. I just stopped being convinced. By April of 2010, I was out of the ministry. But I didn't become a settled atheist either. For the next 14 years, I lived in a kind of in-between space. Still around church, still wrestling with the questions, still reading, still churning things over from every angle I could find. And the way of looking at things I'm about to share didn't really come together until the summer of 2024. So what you're hearing now is not me preaching at you, it's me showing you where that long road led me. And this series is really for people like my friend, people who take the questions seriously, people who aren't satisfied with easy answers, people who want to see the reasoning for themselves. Because when I finally let the questions run their course, something unexpected happened. The clues started lining up from very different directions: science, philosophy, history. Let's start with the physical universe itself. Modern cosmology points to a universe that appears to have had a beginning. Space, time, matter, and energy all trace back toward an origin. Then there's fine-tuning. The basic parameters of physics fall within extremely narrow ranges that allow stars, chemistry, and stable structures to exist at all. Life adds another layer. Even the simplest living cell contains extraordinarily complex systems working together just to stay alive. And at the core of those systems is DNA, an information-bearing molecule that stores and transmits functional instructions. Those are scientific observations. They tell us something about what reality is like. But they don't yet answer the deeper question of what kind of reality produces a universe like that. That's where philosophy enters. When you step back and look at the broader structure of reality, something else becomes clear. The universe has produced conscious minds. We're not merely collections of particles. We are aware of the world and aware of ourselves. And that awareness leads us to another strange feature of reality: logic. Every argument assumes it. Every scientific conclusion depends on it. Yet logic itself is not a physical object. Logic gives rise to mathematics, and mathematics does something remarkable. Again and again, mathematical reasoning predicts phenomena before we ever observe them. The universe is not just chaotic matter in motion. It is rationally ordered in a way that mathematics can describe. Lots of people think they're no good at math. But if you can tell the difference between a pop hit and a deep album cut, or why Michelangelo's David is more beautiful than a pile of scrap metal, then you're already responding to mathematical patterns. The ratios are all over it. Beauty may be in the eye of the beholder, but the mathematics of the universe is backing it up. But it's more than math. Morality raises another question. Many people reject God because of evil, but the very phrase, the problem of evil, only makes sense if evil is real. If something objectively good exists that evil violates, that includes me. I'm not talking about evil as an abstract problem out there. I've violated my own sense of right and wrong. I've violated the moral expectations of others. Whatever this moral law is, I don't just recognize it. I've broken it. And so have you. Evidently, whatever stands behind reality allows us to do that freely. And every violation, small or large, carries a cost. Not just for us, but for others. Pull all of that together. We exist in a universe that is logical and mathematical, vast beyond imagination, intricate down to scales we can't comprehend, finely tuned for life. It's hard to look at a reality like that and see it as the product of a mindless process. But that same reality is also saturated with pain, suffering, and heartbreak. It is a reality that is deeply broken. So now the question turns. Why would a personal source create an existence so ordered, so detailed, and yet so full of suffering? A mindless process that produces suffering can't be accused, and it can't accuse us when we violate our own consciences. But a personal source can accuse and be accused. This is the problem of evil. If God exists, allowing this kind of world has to be answered. And if a personal source stands behind an existence like this, an existence capable of beauty and love, and also capable of immense suffering, that poses another question. Has that source ever acted from inside that reality in history? And there's a deeper question beneath that. What does that source do about the cost of the freedom we've misused? Because any God who would create an existence with this much pain, suffering, and heartbreak really should be crucified. And thank God he was. Christianity makes a very specific claim, not just a spiritual claim, a historical one. Jesus of Nazareth was executed under Pontius Pilate, and shortly afterward, his followers claimed he was alive again. What struck me when I began looking into this again is how early that claim appears. The resurrection doesn't show up centuries later as a slowly developing legend. Some of the earliest Christian creeds trace back to within just a few years, very possibly within a few months of the crucifixion. Then there's Paul. His conversion happens very early. He personally knows Peter. He personally knows James, the brother of Jesus. These are not distant figures from some later tradition. They are people directly connected to the original events who met in Jerusalem, the city where Jesus was crucified. That's a terrible place to invent a resurrection story if nothing actually happened. By the 50s AD, Paul is writing to established churches about beliefs they already share. The movement is spreading publicly through real communities: Jerusalem, Antioch, Corinth, Rome. These people had no political power, no armies, no status, yet the movement kept growing. People will suffer for things that are false if they believe they are true. It is much harder to explain people suffering for something they know they invented. And here's the claim at the center of it all. Christianity does not say God explained suffering away. It says God himself participated in it. The cross is not God merely blaming humanity for the mess. It is God taking responsibility for a world where real moral freedom and real moral failure exist. Suffering and dying on a cross was not something he had to do. He chose to do it. So that's the path I followed. Science points to a universe with a beginning, structure, information, and fine-tuned conditions for life. Philosophy asks what kind of reality could account for consciousness, logic, mathematics, beauty, morality, and the heartbreak that comes with them. History asks whether the personal source those clues suggest has acted in the real world. Whenever I looked at the whole picture with fresh eyes, one explanation made more sense to me than the others. Not materialism as some neutral default. Not a mindless, eternal universe generator that lets us look away. But a personal source capable of producing a rational universe and willing to be held accountable for it. That's the blueprint for this whole series. In the coming weeks, we're going to break these arguments down one by one. The scientific case, the philosophical case, and the historical case, each on its own terms. Maybe my friend, the one who checked the none box, will check it out. He's skeptical. And if you are too, good. Look with me, because for me, this didn't stay abstract. It became personal. If you know what's good for me, you'll press that like button and subscribe. And check out my website called whattheheckle.com. And leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you.